As researchers make attempts to pierce the veil on the shrouded history of our collective past, they have found startling, strange artifacts and ancient stones that seem to tell peculiar stories and force experts to question previously held assumptions. Such odd discoveries have been found all around the world and point to impossible to explain moments in history that are left relatively unanswered even to this day. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we will be going over 5 mysterious ancient stone artifacts that have been discovered that researchers have a hard time trying to explain. The Kensington Runestone. Back in 1898, found in the midwestern state of Minnesota, a Swedish immigrant by the name of Olof Oman had reportedly made a strange discovery located near the small town of Solum that has been the object of debate for the past 12 decades. According to Olof Oman, as he was tending to his field and clearing out the land he had just purchased for ownership, he had found a massive stone with carvings on the side that were instantly recognizable to him as a native Scandinavian. The stone was described as being roughly 202 pounds with Scandinavian runes written on the face and side of the stone. The stone itself, when translated, was dated to have been written back in 1362, and was a written record left behind by Scandinavian explorers that had visited the region. Experts were quick to claim that the record had been a forgery, as the translation seemed to match a more modern dialect as compared to what would have been expected back in the 14th century. Interestingly enough, however, the records of the journey made by Scandinavian explorer Leif Erikson, of whom had journeyed throughout the Americas at the theorized timeframe sometime around the early 11th century, began to reach popularization during the early 1900s, shortly following the discovery of this stone. This renewed popularization of the Scandinavian theory quickly led to researchers reanalyzing the stone, as well as seeing the stone itself sent to the Smithsonian to be put on display for study. During its stay on display, linguistic scholars such as William Thalbitzer and S.N. Hagen both published papers that proved the authenticity of the stone by tracing the philological problems with the stone's grammar as having been the result of normal dialectal variances of the language during the time period in which it was written, proving that the stone had to be authentic in nature to have such specific grammar cases found in less well-known dialects of the Old Swedish language. Regardless of this evidence, however, to this day experts debate over the authenticity of the stone and continue to make claims that Scandinavian explorers had never reached as far west as the Minnesota state during their expeditions to the New World. The Bat Creek Inscription. In 1889, the Smithsonian Bureau of Ethnology led an expedition that was directed by famed entomologist Cyrus Thomas, of whom was known for his study in the Native American cultures and languages during this time. According to the expedition reports, a stone tablet, later named the Bat Creek Stone Tablet, was uncovered during the archaeological expedition that Cyrus Thomas claimed had inscribed lettering that were, beyond any question, the letters of the Cherokee alphabet. Oddly enough, the Cherokee alphabet itself would not have been made until about 1821, when it was created from the existing Cherokee language by George Guess, also known as Sequoyah, of whom designed the alphabet to be used by the Cherokee people. Although at first glance, this might not appear to have been much of a mystery, the expedition team claimed that the vegetation overgrowing the mound at which the Bat Creek inscription was found showed evidence of the mound having been older than a century, predating the existence of the written Cherokee alphabet. This strange realization of the odd conflict between the invention of the Cherokee alphabet and an artifact found with the inscribed lettering before the letters were invented led to an immediate worldwide puzzle that would bring experts with all different backgrounds working to try to solve this strange mystery. It would not be until a man named Cyrus H. Gordon, not to be confused with Cyrus Thomas, of whom discovered the stone tablet, would work to translate the stone and uncover that the Bat Creek inscription possessed Paleo-Hebrew lettering and not that of the Cherokee alphabet. When translated, the Bat Creek inscription spelt out the phrase "for Judea," a phrase that served as old land claims for the Jewish people. Given anti-Semitic thoughts at the time, The rock would be dismissed as nothing more than a hoax to prevent any legitimacy from stemming from the Paleo-Hebrew find, leaving the origin of the stone a mystery for the modern day. The Newport Tower, Rhode Island. Found in the Toro Park, located in Newport, Rhode Island, there stands the remains of an old stone windmill that was once used as a major ammunition storage depot during the American Revolutionary War and stands as a symbol in the modern day of American independence. Although many might dismiss it as another historical site of American history, the tower itself has been at the center of intense debate relative to the reveal that its construction is believed to have predated the European colonization of the area and have been built by pre-Columbian transoceanic contactees. Back in the year 1837, a Danish archaeologist by the name of Carl Christian Raffen believed that the Newport Tower actually predated any of the European colonies that were established in the area, and that it was evidence that previously believed Nordic expeditions that may have passed through the area had built the tower not to serve as a windmill but as an old Nordic church. Additionally, an archaeologist by the name of Philip Ainsworth Means hypothesized that the structure had been built between the 11th and 14th century given its construction style, and that the existence of fireplaces throughout the tower showed evidence that the original purpose of the construction could not have been used for a windmill, as the flower would have been too flammable for the existence of fireplaces throughout its construction. Unfortunately, there's no evidence of the structure having been used as a church or a windmill, and the Nordic origins of the tower are still under debate as no concrete evidence for either theory has been established. The Narragansett Runestone. Back in December of 1984, a man who had been hunting for quahog claims in the Pojak Point region of the Narragansett Bay noticed a large stone slab that had strange markings that had been scratched into its surface. After spending a considerable time attempting to pull the stone from the region, but being completely unsuccessful as the stone weighed more than 2.5 tons, the quahogger quickly reported the slab to the Rhode Island Historical Preservation and Heritage Commission shortly after. This led to a short expedition by the Historical Preservation and Heritage Commission that located the stone during the brief period in which it was visible within low tide, and found that it had originated from upland, and most likely was down in the bay after extreme events of erosion. The stone, however, was not removed from the bay during this time, and would later be at the center of an interesting heist during 2012 when the stone disappeared from the waters after having been stolen, forcing the State Attorney General's Environmental Unit and DEM's Criminal Investigation Unit to spend more than a year before finally recovering the stone from the stone thief. It would be at this time of recovery that a strange character known as Everett Brown would come forward claiming that the runestone belonged to him, as he and his brother claimed to have carved the runes into the rock back in 1964. When officials questioned why the man had not stepped forward after its initial discovery, he dismissed such questions on the grounds that he had merely forgotten and only recently remembered. Interestingly enough, there's a substantial amount of evidence that the stone predated the supposed carvings of 1964, and that the runes are legitimate in nature. However, given the conditions of erosion and lack of further evidence to date, further information and the theory surrounding the Narragansett runestone is limited and remains a mystery to this day as to its true origins. The Westford Knight. Back in 1873, in a printed edition of the Gazette of Massachusetts, was a lone article detailing a strange carved rock that, at the time of the article, was believed to have been made by a local Native American tribe, as the impressions of the rock predated any known post-Columbian transatlantic contact people. It was not until 1954 when the president of the Archaeological Society of Connecticut, a man by the name of Frank Glynn, visited the carved rock and began to notice additional impressions and indentations in the rock that seemed to match a sword and shield of European origin. After discussing this finding with a man by the name of T.C. Lethbridge, surrounding a theory of Nordic people having once possibly ventured through the region, the two archaeological experts believed that the carvings in the rock were evidence of such Nordic expeditions. Interestingly enough, however, Lethbridge would then visit the carvings and claim that the figure more accurately resembled a medieval knight from the 14th century, and that the sword carving on the rock was not that of a Nordic sword, but rather that of a hand and a half-wheel pommel sword, of which was common in the 14th century in North Britain. It was after this discovery that the rock would be named the Westford Knight, named after the town of Westford, Massachusetts, where the carvings resided. But what do you think of all these strange and mind-blowing ancient stone artifacts that researchers are still trying to better understand in the modern day? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comment section below and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.